Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio. So today, with the Pokemon Trading Card Game World Championships having gone and concluded, that means we've got big news. We were expecting the reveal of Scarlet and Violet cards during the opening ceremony. That actually didn't happen. They saved it for the closing ceremony, which, side note, on a completely personal, selfish level, was actually way more convenient for me, so yay! Also, if I'm a little bit croaky, do bear in mind I've been casting Worlds for the past 4 days, so shall we say there has been some excitement. Point is, EXs are back. Little E, little X. And that is really important. Because what that means is that we have got evolutions. So these Pokemon EX are still going to give up 2 prizes. That's still going to be a thing. But they showed us during the video your basic Mimikyu, your Stage 1 Lucario, and your Stage 2 Magnezone. All of them are going to be available, so to speak, in the TCG. And they did obviously confirm that there are going to be both new and returning Pokemon coming in as EXs. This is kind of amazing. And this harkens back to the early days of the Pokemon TCG, or indeed earlier days of the Pokemon TCG. Because way back in Generation 3, we had Little E, Little X. They started off in EX Ruby and Sapphire, and they lasted all the way until EX Power Keepers. And they were fun. And that was a good format. And essentially, the way we do this is, you've got your basics, which are good, and then you've got your stage 1s, which are better, and your stage 2s, which are better. And I know that's the way it always works. I don't want this to sound too obvious, but what we've got at the moment is basic Pokemon V that are really good, and then kind of borderline stage 1 Pokemon V Star, which are really crazy, over the top, super good. And that's a little bit of a problem, because it means your traditional evolution decks aren't particularly relevant. It means cards like Rare Candy just aren't a thing. And we don't like that. Well, don't get me wrong, I'd say we don't like that. We do like that. Obviously, we like that. The Pokemon TCG is great, and the format at the moment is awesome. The Pokemon World Championships was great. What I mean is, in these formats, where you've got essentially these evolving Pokemon that all give up 2 prizes, we tend to get a little bit more variety in the format. Let's not forget that when we had GXs, which is obviously very close to this mechanic, back in Generation 7, Worlds was won by Gardevoir GX, a Stage 2 Pokemon. And sure, we're talking about a Stage 2 Pokemon that evolves up and gives up 2 prizes and all of that, but the point is, it is a proper Stage 2 Pokemon where you have to go up through your stages. This is wonderful. Now, in terms of Mimikyu, we can see almost nothing. We can see 190 HP, that's about the best we can do. Does give you a baseline, but do bear in mind, Mimikyu is extremely weak generally when we see these cards, so I really wouldn't read very much into that at all. I mean, we can have a look at Mimikyu V as an example, and you've got to bear in mind that your average Pokemon V, you're going up to about 220 HP. Mimikyu V has 160. So actually, don't use this Mimikyu as a baseline. It's not a good idea to use this Mimikyu as a baseline, because Mimikyu is going to be very weak, and that's very important. Yes, this Mimikyu's got 190 HP. No, this doesn't mean 190 HP is going to be standard for Pokemon EX. We can't say that yet, because actually, in a world where Pokemon V go up to 220, Mimikyu V has 160, so expect these Pokemon EX to have more HP than you would generally expect. That is fairly important. Good. As for Lucario, we can see 260 HP, which is about 20 less than we see from Pokemon V Star. That is huge. That is very high. And then with Magnezone, we've got 330 HP. It's not actually that easy to see on this picture, but in a minute I'll show you a better picture where we can see it far more clearly. In terms of Lucario, we know there's an attack that does 60 and one that looks like it does 160. We can't see much of Lucario. We're not going to get into that yet. But we can see Magnezone. Now, Magnezone is a stage 2. And that is extremely important because this kind of shows us what's going to happen in terms of these stage 2 Pokemon, where they are likely to end up going. 330 HP, which is basically VMAX territory. That's basically where we're going here. 330 HP. Interestingly enough, the first Pokemon VMAX that was teased at the World Championships 3 years ago did actually turn out to be Stonejourner with 330 HP. So that's what we're looking at from Stage 2's. Magnezone is fairly representative, as is Lucario incidentally for Stage 1's. So this is roughly what we're looking at. 330 HP for your Stage 2's. That is a big gap because Stage 2's are pretty big. And the good news is we can actually see the attacks on the Magnezone here, which is really rather lovely. So what we've got here is Energy Crush, single lightning energy, and you deal 50 damage for each energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon, which is pretty good. Really stops your opponent attaching much energy before you're doing great damage. And then we got 2 energy, 220, 30 to yourself. Now, as it stands at the moment, 220 HP is great for getting KOs on Pokemon V. That's lovely. But do bear in mind that the benchmark for Pokemon EX is likely to be higher. Again, given that Mimikyu's got 190, we would expect the basic benchmark to be just a little bit higher here than the 220 we've been used to, at least for basics. So please do bear that in mind. It's nice seeing the card, but we can't really do much analysis of the cards until we really have better information about what the format's going to look like, what all of these cards look like. But then we were shown Koraidon and Miraidon EX, and it is very, very important to note that like the GX reveals in 2016 and like the Pokemon V reveals in 2019, these are heavily redacted. You can see on the screen that the typings have been removed. And you can see that the HP has been removed. Weakness, resistance, retreat cost, and energy cost. All of this has been removed. So I'm going to tell you about what they do. We're going to have a very quick chat about them. Please bear in mind these cards are heavily redacted, and that is going to change a lot. Now, Koraidon seems like the worst of the two, although still pretty good. Does 220, and during your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. Actually, they both do this, which is kind of cool. Interestingly enough, not as good as Zacian V, because Zacian V for free energy does 230, but please do bear in mind, we don't know the energy cost here, and that could change an awful lot. If it's 2 energy 220, that's better than Zacian. If it's free energy 220, that's worse. But one thing we might see Pokemon doing is trying to get things a little bit more reasonable in terms of damage here. They might be trying to roll it back a little bit damage-wise, which would cause issues in the first year because Vs will be a little bit more powerful and all of that. But again, we don't have full information here. Please take this with a gigantic pinch of salt. We don't have all the information. Please bear that in mind. But the abilities here are what really interests me. Koraidon EX has an awesome ability, Dino Cry. Once during your turn, you may attach up to 2 basic energy from your discard pile to your basic Pokemon in any way you like, and end your turn. This is a phenomenal ability which has been wound back very substantially. Partly it's been wound back by the fact that you can only attach to basic Pokemon, and partly it ends your turn. And we've seen with stuff like the aforementioned Zacian, abilities that end your turn are not the end of the world. They can be really good, but please do bear in mind that that is a gigantic downside. As for Miraidon, once during your turn, you may search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon, put them onto your bench, and shuffle your deck. No downside. Now, sure, you can only bench basic Pokemon, but come on. You can only bench basic Pokemon anyway. This doesn't end your turn. Miraidon's ability seems absolutely crazy busted, because essentially, you can get one of these out with something like a Quick Ball, and then use that to get more basics? I mean, if you only want, say, 3 bench Pokemon, what you can do is use Miraidon to get a Pokemon and a second Miraidon, and then use your second Miraidon to get your last 2 bench. And sure, you put 2 Miraidon on your bench, that's a problem, depending on how good the attack ends up being with the attack cost and the HP of Pokemon, both of which are really up in the air, so we can't really judge how good this attack is yet. Although in the early days, obviously these are going to be played along with Pokemon V, in the format where Pokemon V is still legal. Obviously this is great, because, you know, Pokemon V have 220, but again, we need to see how these EXs really shape out before we can be 100% sure. But certainly in terms of filling your bench quickly, this is awesome and I love it. Miraidon seems absolutely busted. And I do need to mention here, there is one more element that we don't really know very much about. If you take a close look, in Koraidon's text, when it says 2 basic energy, that gap is too big. And when it says attach it to your basic Pokemon, the gap between basic and Pokemon is too big. And in Miraidon EX, where it says you can bench up to 2 basic Pokemon, the gap between basic and Pokemon is too big. Is this going to be just EX Pokemon? Probably not, they would just show us. So there is an excellent chance that there is a new type of basic Pokemon, quite possibly related to terrestrial Pokemon, that we don't know what it is, and it's been deliberately redacted for that purpose. Obviously, this changes quite a lot in terms of how much they're going to see play, but it doesn't change anything I've said about these cards and how useful they're going to be. It just means they're going to be really restricted to certain types of decks. Until we know what goes in that space, we're again in a situation where I'm not 100% sure. I'm sorry, but let's not take away from how good these abilities are. Oh yeah, and then they showed us this logo at the end of the video. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I don't know, is the honest answer. What we've got here is a new mechanic of some description, which is separate to what we would generally expect. This is a new mechanic different to what we would generally expect from EXs. What is it going to be? Is it going to be some kind of level X mechanic, where you can get into your highest evolution stage, but then go off? Maybe. That would work. Or is it going to be something like Break Pokemon, as an example, which is again very kind of similar, where you evolve up and then add on top? Or is it going to be something else altogether? The answer is we really don't know. And honestly, I've done a video really trying to predict what terrestrial Pokemon are going to look like in the Pokemon TCG. We got no new information today. Like, sure, in terms of this mechanic, obviously they told us about EXs, that's great. But in terms of this new mechanic, they showed us the EX logo, and it looks like terrestrial Pokemon. Well, we already knew terrestrial Pokemon were going to have to come into the TCG, so this doesn't really give us any new information we can use to predict how they're going to work. Clearly, this is EXs mashed into terrestrial Pokemon, but in terms of anything else, we're going to have to wait and see. This is just about the biggest news of the year, honestly. And I have not made any videos while I've been at Worlds because I've been very busy and, it's been Worlds. But come on, something like this. Oh, I've actually taken a break from my Worlds fun time to come and show you this video. I had to do it. No, we've not got the text of Mimikyu or Lucario. Yes, both Koraidon and Miraidon are heavily redacted. And no, they haven't told us what this new mechanic is going to be. I'm sorry. But we do have a lot of information to go on here. And evolving 2-prize Pokemon, Rare Candy potentially being back and usable. These, and then you see the ability like we see on Miraidon here. This seems like it's going to allow every deck to set up. One of the things they told us in the video was that they were actually going to be focusing on comeback cards. One of the themes was going to be comeback cards, and that is awesome. We're thinking things like N, as an example, great comeback card. So everything we've heard here basically tells us that the competitive future of the Pokemon TCG looks like it's going to be awesome. I'm extremely excited, and you should be too. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, you know the deal. I want to hear what you think about this. I want to know all of your thoughts, so go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some weekly bonus pods to answer all of your questions, join a Discord to chat Pokemon, and have an awful lot of fun. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.